المقاومة في لبنان تحمي الدولة وتحمي الشعب وتحمي الوطن.
Good afternoon and thank you for joining us on FutureTV. I'm Linda Tamim and these are today's top stories. Education Minister Ilyes Boussab urges lawmakers to attend next week's parliamentary sessions to approve the new wage scale. Hezbollah Chief Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah calls on all parties to exert efforts to resort to dialogue to elect a new president. A newly elected Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko says Ukraine will not give up Crimea. Education Minister Ilyes Boussab has urged lawmakers to attend next week's parliamentary session to approve the new pay hike. Our priority is to stage the official exams, Boussab told reporters at the General Directorate of Technical Education in Dequene after talks with the Federation of Private Educational Institutions. He revealed that he will hold talks with several parliamentary blocs ahead of Tuesday's session to urge lawmakers to attend it and approve the new wage scale. Boussab warns that if the parliament fails to endorse the pay hike draft law, the country will plunge into a crisis. He therefore urged all parliamentary blocs to assume their responsibility. Hezbollah Chief Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah has called for domestic efforts and dialogue to elect a new president instead of awaiting the outcome of any Saudi-Iranian talks. He noted that Hezbollah has never raised the issue of tripartite power sharing between Christians, Sunnis and Shiites. Nasrallah called for serious efforts and multi-party efforts to overcome the presidential vacuum. Regarding the Syrian elections, he said opposition to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has failed after his victory in Tuesday's elections. Nasrallah is staunch ally of Assad, said Syrians had prevented U.S. plans to confiscate their will. In a speech broadcast on Hezbollah-affiliated El Manar television, the leader of the armed group has denied accusations that Hezbollah had forced Syrians in Lebanon to take part in the vote. Nasrallah also called on regional countries to stop supporting Syrian rebel groups involved in a campaign to oust Assad. He called for a political solution to the conflict, but warned talks must start and end with the Syrian president. Hezbollah has denied any connection to alleged construction violations committed in Lhasa, a predominantly Shiite town in Jbil district. In comments published in an Akhbar newspaper, sources close to the party rejected to give the dispute a political aspect, saying there are attempts to politicize the matter to create rift. Mount Lebanon Public Prosecutor Judge Claude Karam has launched a probe into allegations that residents began constructing a building on a property claimed by the Maronite Church in Lhasa. Later yesterday, the prosecutor's office ordered the construction be demolished after residents reportedly built a ceiling rather than waiting for a judicial decision on the ownership of the property. Visiting Italian Foreign Minister Federica Mogherini has stressed that the army should be offered all the necessary support to maintain stability in Lebanon. Offering support to the Lebanese army is very important to maintain local, regional and international security, said the foreign minister in a joint press conference with her Lebanese counterpart, Gibran Bassil, at Bustros Palace. She described the army as an institution for unity, adding that it's a tool used to preserve stability in a country bordered by conflict. For his part, Bassil lauded Italy for exerting efforts to support the Lebanese army. He mentioned a meeting will be held on June the 17th to tackle the capabilities of the Lebanese armed forces. Italy previously announced that the International Support Group for Lebanon will hold a meeting in Rome this month to boost the Lebanese armed forces' capabilities and ease the Syrian refugee crisis. Mogherini also held talks with Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri and Deputy Prime Minister Samir Muqbil. Hundreds of Syrians have been released from government prisons after an amnesty granted by President Bashar al-Assad to mark his re-election this week. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says 320 prisoners were released from northern Aleppo's central prison on Wednesday as Assad's victory in presidential elections was announced. The Britain-based group says 480 others, including 80 women, will be freed from Adra prison in Damascus province. Several dozens were freed Friday from Adra, while the rest of the 480 slated to walk free were transferred to a municipal building pending their release. The observatory says that all the Adra prisoners had been held on charges of terrorism, a term the government uses for those involved in the uprising. An estimated 18,000 people are being held in Syria's prisons. 2 Orthodox bishops kidnapped in Syria in April of last year are currently in the northern city of Raqqa and held captive by the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. According to a report published in Al Akhbar newspaper, the 2 bishops are in good health and are currently detained in the region of Tal Abyad, located near the Turkish border. And coming up next, the trial of Muslim Brotherhood leader Mohammed Badia is postponed till July 5th. That and more after the break. An Egyptian court has postponed until July 5th the verdict in the trial of Muslim Brotherhood leader Mohammed Badia and scores of others for inciting violence that killed 2 people last summer. The same court handed out death penalties to 10 people, all of whom have so far avoided arrest. Badia was one of thousands of Brotherhood supporters arrested in a crackdown following the removal of former President Mohamed Morsi by the Egyptian army. The organization's leader is being tried in nearly 40 cases, all of which potentially carry the death penalty, and has already been sentenced to die in 1 case. In April, a court in the city of Minya sentenced him and nearly 700 alleged Morsi supporters to hang over the murder and attempted murder of policemen. A final ruling in those sentences is expected on the 21st of this month. Jihadists have taken staff and students hostage at a university campus in the Iraqi city of Ramadi, where security forces have battled anti-government fighters for months. The attack is the 3rd major operation by militants in 3 days, following heavy fighting and suicide bombings in northern Iraq on Friday and a major assault on the city of Samarra on Thursday. Police say the militants from the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant group infiltrated the university from the nearby Al-Tasha area, killed its guards and blew up the bridge leading to its main gate. Several people have been injured as opponents and supporters of a renegade ex-general clashed in the Libyan capital, Tripoli. Witnesses say the skirmishes in Martyr Square started with verbal insults and protesters throwing water bottles and sticks at each other. After a tense standoff, gunshots were heard and protesters started running. It was not clear who had opened fire and no one was injured by the shooting. On May the 16th, Haftar launched an offensive in Libya's second city of Benghazi, aimed at eradicating militias that he called terrorists. Fighting has since been escalated in Libya and has become increasingly divided. And now for news around the world in brief. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko said in a combative inaugural speech that Ukraine will not give up Crimea, the Black Sea Peninsula that Russia annexed from it in March. He stressed the unity of Ukraine and said it will not become a federalized state as advocated by Moscow. Poroshenko also said he intended very soon to sign the economic part of an association agreement with the European Union as a first step towards full membership. Police in Brazil's biggest city, São Paulo, have used batons and fired tear gas to break the subway strikes by protesting workers and commuters that reports say have caused chaos in the country's economic capital. The second straight day of commuting chaos on Friday confronted Brazil, less than a week before it hosts the opening match of the Football World Cup. The exiled leader of Pakistan's MQM party has been bailed by police in London after being arrested on suspicion of money laundering. This is according to a police source who said Altaf Hussain was arrested at his home in the British capital on Tuesday. His arrest prompted thousands of people to protest on the streets of Karachi, Pakistan's biggest city and his party's power base. For the second year in a row, Lebanon is marking International Archives Day, which is celebrated every year on the 9th of June. All around the world, national and local archives institutions organize activities and events to showcase their collections, a great way to raise public awareness on the importance of those pieces of history. This year, International Archives Day in Lebanon is taking place on the 7th, 8th and 9th of June in several institutions around Beirut, such as the Lebanese National Library, the American University of Beirut, the Al-Nahar Information Center and the Arab Image Foundation. The Arab Image Foundation, for example, is displaying glass plate negatives, prints and albums from its collection. Visitors will also be able to see a selection of photographs from Portrait du Caire, an exhibition that presents the work of 3 Armenian photographers, Alban, Arman and Van Leo. International Archives Day is organized by the Modern Heritage Observatory, a network of institutions and individuals from the Middle East and North Africa, which promotes the preservation of modern heritage.
Here in Lebanon, it's actually being held for the second time. So we had it last year with 7 participating institutions. This year we have 17. And it's being organized under the auspices of the UNESCO National Commission in Lebanon and being coordinated and organized by the Modern Heritage Observatory, which is a network of institutions based in Lebanon and also in the region who all promote modern heritage and the preservation of modern heritage. So we're talking about 20th century heritage. And they promote it individually, and we promote it as a group, as a network of institutions. The Arab Image Foundation was established in 1997. It's based in Beirut. It was created by a group of photographers and artists, and it works for the collection, the preservation, and the study of photography from Lebanon, but also from the region. The idea behind it was really to look at the representation of the Arab world through the eyes of local photographers, rather than Westerners. And our collection encompasses really very diverse sources. So we have professional photographers, we also have amateur prints, we have family photographs, albums. The collection is quite large. It's 600,000 images, which is in different formats. The oldest go back to around 1860 all the way to today. So today for International Archives Day, the Arab Image Foundation is opening its doors to the public actually for the next 3 days. So we really encourage people to come and have a look at our collection, have a look at what we're exhibiting. We have a library of over 1,000 books in photography. The whole idea behind International Archives Day is to change this idea, this perception that people have that archives are dusty, old records that are inaccessible to people. And we want to show people our collections. We want people to be able to access them because archives are, after all, very diverse in nature. So we have photographs. Other institutions have other kinds of materials.
This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. Education Minister Ilyas Boussab urges lawmakers to attend next week's parliamentary session to approve the new wage scale. Hezbollah chief Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah calls on all parties to exert efforts and resort to dialogue to elect a new president. And newly elected Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko says Ukraine will not give up Crimea. Those were your weekend headlines from us here at Future Television. I'm Linda Tamim, wishing you all a very nice weekend.
المقاومة في لبنان